Let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That was too good.
Yeah.
It's funnier actually when it doesn't work.
Really?
Yeah.
We already played together, so...
Yeah, maybe that's fine.
Herzlich willkommen bei der 10. Ausgabe von diesem Podcast «Ihre Brandig». Ich bin der Trummer, euer Gastgeber hier. Und mein aktuelles Album «Ihre Brandig» ist so der Dreh- und Angelpunkt für die Podcasts. Es sind ja ganz viele Gäste auf diesem Album und mit allen, die dort mitgesungen und mitgespielt haben, tue ich auch einen Podcast rausgeben. Dann, wenn wir quasi unseren gemeinsamen Song rausgeben. Und heute ist das Elodie Romain, bekannt als Singer-Songwriterin, Musikerin und Aktivistin Billie Bird aus Lausanne. And for everyone listening in, maybe from the French part or somewhere else even, you might just skip ahead because the conversation itself is going to be in English. So, hear you later. Ich habe Elodie vor 6 Jahren kennen bei einem Projekt, das heisst «Quatre Linguas», wo Künstlerinnen aus allen 4 Landessprachen sind zusammengekommen in Chur, unter der Regie von Jazzchur und der Astrid Alexander. Und wir haben zusammen Musik gemacht und wir haben uns sehr schnell befreundet und extrem gut verstanden. Und über die Jahre habe ich viel von ihrer Geschichte hören. Sie hat eine sehr bewegte Kindheitsgeschichte. Sie ist in einem Heim aufgewachsen, weil ihre Eltern nicht die Kapazität hatten, sich um sie und ihre Schwester zu kümmern. Und als queere Person, als lesbische Frau, sowohl in der Schweiz, aber auch in der Musikszene und in ihrer gesamten Lebenssituation hat sie natürlich auch ganz viele Sachen erlebt, die ich nicht erlebe und die für mich extrem bereichernd waren, von ihr darüber zu hören. Und darum war für mich auch klar, dass sie das Lied «Unsichtbar allein» mit ihr möchte singen, weil es in diesem Lied genau um so Fragen von Sichtbarkeit geht, von eben diesen Menschen, die vielleicht oftmals ein bisschen am Rand stehen. Es hat sich dann auch herausgestellt, dass ich offenbar irgendwann mal ihre sehr schöne Akkordfolge abgeschaut habe von einem Billie Bird Song. Sie hat mir es nicht übel genommen. Das Gespräch haben wir im Januar 25 geführt, und zwar am Abend von dem Tag, wo ich am Mittag schon im Aargau bei Sina war. Entsprechend war es schon ein bisschen spät gewesen, und wir waren ein bisschen müde gewesen, und es ist ein bisschen weniger formell vielleicht als andere von diesen Podcasts. Wir haben geredet, zum Beispiel über die heilende Kraft vom Lac Léman und was Lausanne damit zu tun hat, wer Elodie ist geworden. Über unser Lied natürlich und die Themen da drin. Über ihr Leben als queere Person in der Musikindustrie. Über das Bedürfnis, sich zu sehen, zu fühlen und was das auch mit ihrer Entscheidung jetzt zu tun hat, Künstlerin zu werden. Über Familie und eben gewählte Familie in der Queer-Community. Über das Musikbusiness, das immer noch sehr vom männlichen Blick dominiert ist. Darüber, wie sie in ihren 40er hat Frieden damit gemacht, dass sie sich nicht mehr grundlegend wird verändern. Über ihre Rolle als öffentliche Repräsentationsfigur für marginalisierte Gruppen. Über ihre Gedanken und Gefühle und auch ihre Ängste zu diesen antiprogressiven Bewegungen, die es politisch im Moment relativ erfolgreich gibt. Eine Mitte suchen mit andersgesinnten Menschen und das Risiko, das das für FINTA-Personen immer auch mit sich bringt. Und über einen Plan hinter dem Leben und ihre Aufgabe, die sie dort drinnen sieht. Das war sehr spannend für mich und hat Spass gemacht, und ich hoffe, auch dir kommen auf einen oder anderen spannenden eigenen Gedanken anhand von dem Gespräch. Viel Vergnügen mit der Billie Bird, aka Elodie Romain.
So thank you so much for having me here. You came to me to record. I'm coming to your place to talk. That was the agreement. And thanks for being such a nice host. We have coffee and tea and some wine and everything. Very nice. And thank you so much for singing with me on this new record and for doing this conversation now. The thing I always start with is we have this song Heimatlied, the home, the song about home, and I told everyone involved to think about a place or a town or whatever it would be that means something to them, but also especially means something to them in the context of how you became who you are. And your choice was Lac Léman. We are here in Lausanne, I should say, maybe, so we are right on the Lac Léman. But maybe you can tell me a little bit about why you chose the Lac Léman.
Because I love water.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Lac Léman, and especially I think the scenery around the Lac Léman is fantastic. I love to go swim and meet my friends there. And yeah, I think this is a fantastic scenery in some places around the Lac Léman. And I think for me is every time also I feel a bit lost, I go either in the forest or at the Lac Léman.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a place where I go really easy with the metro, and it's really easy like just to like align again. And this view is kind of un repère en français. I don't know how to say that. Like just a shelter or
healing place.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And also like I get more aligned. And it's also this lake is also related to my city, and my city also offered me a lot in terms of friends, support, fundings, and general support also regarding my music project. So this is like a very massive symbol of this city that is so important for me.
So you grew up in Lausanne?
Yes.
In the city?
Yes.
Like all your childhood?
Yes.
Have you ever lived anywhere else?
I lived in Geneva for a while.
Okay.
When I was studying music. And other than that, no, not really. I traveled a lot, but I never left.
This was always your home base?
Yes, It is.
You said landscape is, the landscape around the lake is like, has a meaning to you as well. And I think that's something I don't know how much you translated the song to yourself, the song about home, but it's very much about memories in the landscape, which the landscape triggers whenever we visit. And you're saying that Lac Léman, like you've always been here, so it must be a lot of memories from different phases of your life. Would you say that that it's mostly childhood and youth that you go back to when you go to the lake, or what is it exactly?
No, it's not, absolutely not related to youth actually, or childhood. It's more like related to becoming an adult and being an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think becoming an adult was really hard on me.
Mm-hmm.
I was really struggling. And yeah, I think I remember this first times as an adult just to walk on my own, kind of, and just also enjoy the sceneries on my own, and sometimes struggling and sometimes enjoying on my own.
As an independent person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a lonely one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Independence also can be loneliness.
Yes. And maybe we should mention that, and we talked about it, so I know it's okay for you to mention it, that you grew up in a foster home most of the time.
Yeah.
Also in the city?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say childhood was a struggle sometimes, it probably is in some way or the other for most of us, but not for most of us in that way.
Yeah.
The very way that you experienced.
And my foster home was actually 5 minutes away from the lake. So it was really like, it's under the station of Lausanne. And it's like, mostly if I walk down, like in, would say 5 minutes I was at the lake. In Ouchy. Ouchy Olympique.
Okay, that's like the last stop on the metro that I came here on. Huh?
Yes, Ouchy Olympique. And then you can take the boat if you fancy.
Okay.
And go to France.
You do that sometimes?
Yeah, I do. I did it on the January 1st, actually.
Okay.
I love boats, you know that.
I wasn't aware of that, I don't think. No.
I think I used to be a sailor.
Maybe in a different life, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned it, France is really close. And we are in the Swiss French part. And we are talking English, maybe that's also worth mentioning. It's just that we could get by. Your German is pretty good.
Yes.
My French is okay too. But for us to actually have a conversation, it's just easier in English.
Yes.
Which is why we do it like this. Even though it's kind of sad inside our own country that we do that. But I think exchange is more important now than politics. for this. But how Swiss do you feel being in the French part and being so close to France? The song that we sing together on the album is called Unsichtbar allein, Invisibly Alone, and to me it's a song about wanting to be seen and but not feeling seen, and it happens in a very private situation in the song, but it's, to me it stands for like a bigger, for many things other than just a private personal situation. And when I thought about who am I going to sing these songs with, when I made the basic decision to share most of the songs, with this one I immediately thought of you, because I thought there are so many experiences in your life, in your situation, where that could apply maybe, but maybe I'm projecting that. That's what I'm finding out talking to you today, I think. But for you, you are a lesbian. You're a woman in the music industry. You are a Romande in Switzerland, and maybe you don't feel like part of minority in all these things, but you could. So maybe that's where my question was coming from. You know, how does it matter to you that this is Switzerland, being so close to France, while you share the language with France, but you share the nationality, if you want to call it that, with a lot of Swiss German people?
Yeah. So for me, there are like kind of two directions in your question. Is like this question of being seen.
Yeah.
And
we'll have time to get to all of the parts of that.
Like, and so I think we can relate both of them and go pretty straight to the point. But so for me, they are like kind of as an artist, being from the Welsh side, and this is like kind of this thing, but it's also about related to this being seen. So I will start with my childhood, and I think like as a child, I was really alone because I grew up in a foster home, but also when I was living with my parents, they were so vulnerable that they didn't have the resources to take care of us. So I was really alone, and I think like wanting to be seen is also wanting to be loved. So this is mostly this, and of course to survive we need love, and I don't know how I grew this thing, but I think then becoming an artist is not wanting to be seen, but then it's maybe the next level of wanting to be special, because I felt such like a shit back in the days, and I was like, I was in the margin, but still I was like, my passion for music and my will to become a singer-songwriter is super genuine. So I was from 5, I knew I wanted to be a singer. So, and then of course, like becoming an artist is being seen, but it's also a lot about sharing. So for me now, like the progression is like, I'm not really interested of being seen now. It's more what I can share, and maybe that people can see themselves more through my proposition or my vision. And then of course it's fantastic to have all these people liking your music or sending you feedbacks, but it's not me, it's Billie Bird, so it's related to my music. And then I also had different perspective on this being loved thing, or this lack of love that I needed because I didn't have any adults around or parents around or family around. So I made bad choices, and then as growing up I kind of understood and learned how to be loved, and love like maybe in a healthy way, because how to love I know but it took me a long time sometimes to know how to be loved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that whole question of identity and feeling whole in your identity also is much bigger than, I guess it is with all of us, but maybe not in such challenging ways. That when you do have a home and a family that sort of carries you.
Yeah, and actually, you mentioned this, like being queer and etc. And for me, actually, like being queer and being a lesbian, because I'm also queer, and it was also like in the queer community, we talk a lot about chosen family, and as queer people, we experience a lot of loneliness and rejection from the society. So I was kind of adding, kind of being in the margin, like first in a foster home, then coming out as a lesbian 20 years ago. And for me, is like when back in the days I think about it, I'm like, oh, okay, so this was my fate, kind of being in the margin, but also like growing up in a foster home also allowed me to make choices. Still being queer is not a choice, or being a lesbian is not a choice, but making the choice to just don't give a fuck, even though it was really hard, but it was. And all my life, I always had to fight with this is who I am, and I cannot compete, I cannot fight against that. Voila. And then, yeah, and I think, like, for me it's hard, of course, like, growing up as a lesbian, it was really hard, and also growing as a lesbian or a queer artist, it's also very hard, because in the music industry and the world is still led by men. And I think now I understand is like growing out of the male gaze, and male gaze is, for the people who doesn't know this concept, is like what men expect from women to be, so they have value. So, and like I haven't ever existed in the male gaze. And this is, I think, being a lesbian or being whatever, being in a foster home, whatever, this is who I am. But I think like not existing in the male gaze was always very hard, I think.
In the public sphere, there's a lot more awareness for all of this than there was 10 years ago, in my perception at least.
Yeah.
Do you feel that too?
Yes, there are more awareness, but there are still the same people in power. So it's taking so much time that awareness is fine, but like some people have to go because they keep reproducing this, like I'm not going to name people, but still in the music industry in Switzerland or in France. And of course, there are many, many changes that have been made. But still, sometimes, yeah, I don't need to be seen. I need to work. I don't need to be seen. I need to work. But to work, you have to be seen. But I was not sure about your question. Actually, was not so clear, Christophe.
That's possible.
So being seen thing, and it's like, was it related to visibility?
No. Well, no. I guess the starting point for the whole subject is the song, which is about two people. Maybe at this point, I think I will play it in the podcast.
In der Abend still ich seh es, unsere Schatten auf dem Stein. offensichtlich zusammen, unsichtbar allein. Und ich suche deine Augen, du bist irgendwo dort drin. Spürst keine Berührung, taub für meine Stimme. Wo bist du, wenn ich bei mir bin? Wo bist du? Wo bist du, wenn du mich machst?
N'es pas avec moi.
Ich hab dich gefragt, ob du meinen Gott kennst und was Liebe heisst für dich. Ich hab dich gefragt nach deinen stillen Wünschen und einer Rolle denn für mich. Ich hab erzählt von meinen Wunden, auf einen langen Weg hierher gezeigt. Ich hab meinen Rucksack vor dir aufgetan. Es ist alles am Boden gefallen. Wo bist du, wenn ich bei mir bin? Wo bist du? Wo bist du, wenn du mich machst?
N'es pas avec moi. Ton corps est là, mais ton âme ne répond pas, ne répond pas. Que puis-je faire pour me sentir près de toi, près de toi, près de toi?
Wo bist du?
Si tu n'es pas là,
Bist nicht
où es-tu?
da? Wo bist du?
Je sais que tu n'es
Bist
pas dans mes bras.
Wo bist du, wenn ich bei mir bin?
N'es
Wo bist du? Wo bist du, wenn du mich
Si tu n'es
machst?
pas avec moi, pas avec moi, pas avec moi.
So it's this very like private situation where you should be close, but the thing that matters to you, the thing that you think that's who I am, the person you're with doesn't seem interested in that. Doesn't seem to be awake sort of to what matters to you. You're sort of there together. You're invisibly alone. You're obviously together, as the song says, but invisibly you're alone. And I guess that what you described also about your childhood, like different aspects of it, is one of the reasons I thought of you for singing that song, because I thought that's an experience that you may have not just in private situations, but also in your life per se, in a way.
Yeah, and being an artist is really lonely too. Hey, it's crazy. But you know, also like of this question of being seen is like for me also becoming a, in brackets, successful artist is a massive revenge. Because I don't know any artist in Switzerland who grew up in a foster home and that is a professional and kind of successful. So for me it was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna show you. And
That's a drive too.
I deserve 10 times more.
I wish it for you.
Yeah, no, it was a drive. Of course it was a drive.
So I don't know if there's anything there, but just to have tried it again, we sort of came from this place of the like where you're from and how it shapes you. And I would like to ask you a little more about that.
Sure.
Like I tried with this question about Swissness or not Swissness. I don't know if there's anything more specific for you to say about that. Like
I'm very Swiss.
You think you're very Swiss?
Oof. I'm very Swiss and I'm very many things too. I'm very Swiss, I'm very Spanish, I'm very, very many things. I like it. I'm very gay.
And but to you that's, it sounds like that makes you feel rich. It doesn't make you feel like I don't really know what I am, but it's more like I'm so many things. It's cool.
Yeah. I like to be Swiss. Again, I think now I'm 41 and it's like I cannot change who I am, where I grew up and how I am shaped. So I'm really easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also related to being in your 40s now. It's like, shall I enjoy life or shall I still fight against who I am or my identity or my past or, you know?
That's one of the lines in the other song that you also sang in the choir with, where I sing the question of what I'm going to be doesn't quite seem as big anymore as the question of who I've become. You know, like for a long, I think that to me at least it was like that. For a long time it was like, how can I become what I want to become? And now the question is more like, so what happened? Who am I now? And how do I continue with that and not make the best of it? That I wouldn't put it that way, but just fundamental change doesn't seem around the corner.
For me?
In the personality sense, yeah.
Sure, yes. I am always doing introspection. You too, like.
Of course.
Life shows you stuff. I cannot change what is before, like my past, I cannot change it. But then I can change the future, or the future me.
But you know who you are.
Yeah.
And you're making peace with that.
Yes, I am.
And that's what I mean. The fundamental change in that doesn't seem necessary. Maybe I'm trying to understand what you meant when you said being in your 40s is sort of relieving in that way also.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I don't struggle with who I am. So, yeah, I mean, like, again, like, I think this topic of being in control or not is like, I am not, my past is already shaped. I have no control on changing things from the past. So how can I welcome this? Mm-hmm. And welcome like the whole, like me as a whole. And you know, like growing up as I grew, I was working on myself very, very, very much and started therapy very, very young age. And I was always like, how can I welcome everything and make something out of it? Mm-hmm. And also it was a way to honor the way I grew up, and it's part of my identity. And yeah, I don't know, like my sense of community, being grateful.
There's another aspect of that I wanted to ask you about anyway. It's like this in your public persona, which to me appears to be very congruent with yourself. I don't notice a huge, like, you're not stylizing yourself very much as a public persona, but there are many aspects of that, like being a queer person and being part of that whole also Helvetia Rock FINTA support system in the music business and all that. There are a lot of flags that you can wave in a way, but they're also your personal ones.
Yes.
And that's something I'm interested in. Is like maybe that's my position as like a white male in his starting to be late 40s. There are a lot of the flags that are being waved at the moment. I like agree with the goals, but I don't feel like I'm really the one who should do that. Like I can support the people who are more obviously representing those things. But you are one of those people.
And you are very much an ally.
I hope so.
You are.
That's the idea. But What I don't have is the challenge between what's a public role in these things and what's me personally, and I wonder how that is for you.
Yeah. So hey, for me, of course, so growing in the margins is making you aware of a lot of this question of privileges and struggles people face. And I think in some interviews I answered that for me I received a lot, so I wanted to give it back, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, I got so much support that for me is normal to support back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as some causes are not fulfilled, or I think, yeah, if I can do anything, but I think I'm like this also in friendships, or so for me as an artist is, if I can do anything, just ask.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like for Helvetia Rock, for example, I really, like, it happened at a moment where I was like, I'm so lonely, and why are we not sticking all together and supporting each other, and let's now change the face of this patriarchal way of tearing up women between them, so let's now stick together. And Helvetia Rock was such a fantastic way to do that, and also to develop skills and new connections, and completely deconstruct this thing of possess success. Or so now I just have experience and skills that I can share, and I'm really happy to share, because everything is so temporary, like our lives. So what is the point of keeping my resources?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Maybe we should, for the people listening who may not know Helvetia Rock, it's an association founded in support of used to be mostly about female causes in the music business, but it's now about FINTA causes in the music business, by definition, if I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and and you're a part of their, like, you're teaching and giving workshops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was really needed, as a sense of, like, my bio on Instagram is singer-songwriter on a mission. Because this is how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like it can also be a burden to be involved in different causes, because sometimes it sometimes demands a lot, and sometimes I also need just to be an artist and
Mm-hmm.
not also like a militant. I don't know how you say that, but committed.
That's understandable, I think.
Yeah, militantism, and yeah, but for me it's normal. I have a voice now, and people know me, so for me it's normal to say you have to vote. You know, and maybe if I can help or make a difference, I will just give it a try.
Mm-hmm. It comes naturally to you.
Yeah, and I think this is really cool in terms of like, if you're wondering, or anyone is wondering in terms of what can I do or what shall I do, just try, and whatever you try, it will make a difference.
Yeah, there's just such a, and you must be very aware of that. There's just such a, I think, with the public space today is very much the digital space, and it's a very toxic space.
Yes.
And I realize that for me, sometimes there's such a lot of virtue signaling going on as well. People who jump on trains, and their motives are not totally convincing. And I realize that's something that I tend to be afraid of. I tend to be afraid of looking like I'm virtue signaling. So that's why also for this album, it was clear for me that if if I'm making this commitment to make an album about where am I right now and what are the things that you know, that get me worked up and that I have to spend a lot of time reflecting about, it wouldn't be possible to make that without including these subjects. And in a way, inviting you to share that song with me is the way that I felt like that's how I can do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I'm the one to say these things.
But I think
because it's not my personal experience. It's something that I notice and that I think about a lot. But I guess I try to, with different songs on the album, I try to include people where I felt it might be their personal experience, so they can speak from a different place. But
sure.
Yeah.
And I think as a Finta and as a queer person, we offer a different perspective on the world. And I think this is very valuable, to have all these different perspectives, like migrants, like queer people, like disabled people, like it's just different perspectives. And I think this is what is diversity for me. Diversity is like also, yeah, diverse values but still common values, and I think this is really rich. And yeah, but you know, I was thinking that regarding socials, I really made a deal with myself. And socials helped me to make a deal with myself that I will never fake anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I prefer to have a true journey
Mm-hmm.
that is less successful, but always sticking to my values,
Mm-hmm.
than to just lie and always fake it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I made a massive decision, and like, for example, not putting makeup or every time, or just have so many conditions to be ready to do something, or just do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what we can do as artists, is just find the courage to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as Finta and queer people, and it takes maybe more courage because we're less welcomed.
Could you when you spoke about Helvetia Rockt, you said that there's this I think you called it the patriarchal way of dividing the different groups of women.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that a little more?
Yeah, so historically it's very simple, like women were always isolated,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still going on in some countries. So women were very much isolated, and like reunion of women it was always suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can see, like regarding, for example, women in their 50s or 60s, they still have a way of being very toxic in their leadership. Like, there are so small spaces for women that they should really hang on and keep it really like s'accrocher. And now that we decided to change the key, kind of, we are creating more space. And I think the new generations now get this, and like, so as creating support and being more solidarity is creating more space and more opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
than sticking to your opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I think so. Yeah, this is really a historic thing. Like, just men always try to isolate women, and this is why we saw historically that most of women acts were back in the day solo acts,
Mm-hmm.
and now we see more and more finta bands.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also the result of this changing the society related to the music industry, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And like men gathering around and doing boys club things was really normal, but for women it was always suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
either they were lesbians, so they were sick. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Or-
know.
Yeah, or they were like fermenting like a coup, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Or they were witches.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel about feel and think about the pushback that is happening at the moment, also politically, where I think it's always hard to tell if it's true that the whole identity politics, as it's called, is such a huge reason for the conservative upswing that they're having in a bunch of countries right now. But they're always claiming that, at least.
They're claiming what?
They're saying, well, the reason people are not voting for liberal parties and causes is because wokeism is so overdriven, you know. And there's like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that could be statistically proven that's really the reason these things are happening, but there's a perceivable pushback against the progress that we've been making in the past years. How does that feel to you? Like, what are your thoughts about that at this moment?
Yeah, I had a discussion with my side musician Laura, and she told me that because she's very aware of many things. She said it's historically it's a generational thing. So, like these people you're talking about, they're taking advantage of the new generations forgetting the history.
Mm-hmm.
So they're forgetting, like, for example, we know that there are less and less people still alive and who experienced Shoah or the Nazi camps or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like a horrible natural cycle. So we're like in the memory, we're forgetting what happened back in the days. And I think this could be a good hypothesis of what is going on at the moment, but also like, I think, of course, like climate crises, wars, etc., is also related to this extreme right thing. But I'm not a politician and I'm kind of scared to go there. But I think this is really scary. And I really hope it's just for a while and it's not gonna last, because if we have to go there, because this is a natural cycle of this forgetting what happened back in the days and what it was to be under Nazi power, then fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah. And how do you that's another thing that I find interesting. You're very much a city person. How do you feel when you go out into the villages? Is it harder for you to connect with people?
I feel better.
You feel better?
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel better.
How?
It's less noisy and it feels like it's easier to make contact. And I feel less invisible, but also in a way it's scary.
I would imagine that being in the city of Lausanne, you don't, but maybe that's a wrong idea that I have. I don't know. You'll tell me. Being in a city like Lausanne, there's probably a big progressive community.
Yeah.
Which you can't assume when you go to the village.
Yeah. Well, of course, for me, living in a city is easier because also as a queer person, it's way much easier.
It's more common too.
Yeah, and it's fine to like to hold your girlfriend's hand in Lausanne and in the cities in general. Of course, like countrysides scare me a bit more. But I really like nature. And sometimes I'm really like pissed with cities because it's also horrible, and I mean, like, even a city so left like Lausanne is getting righter and righter, which is really strange. But we're trying to fight, but I love villages.
One of the reasons I'm asking is because what we talked about before, with people more and more just living within their bubbles, as it's commonly called now. That there's that question of how do we keep building those bridges, and I wonder what your experience is with that. Do you even meet very different people where you have to explain your perspective on life, being who you are, from scratch, or are you mostly in an environment where that's kind of clear, and you mention its title and people know what it is?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I guess if I was a politician and doing some lobbying in the villages to get some votes, I would. But actually, no, I don't have to do that. And of course, like at my concerts or in my my following on my community, people know me and they kind of know my values because I try to be very clear about it. But I meet people all the time, and sometimes I go to eat to this place and sometimes yes, I have to explain everything from scratch, but I can feel that it's hard because it's risky also as a queer person.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, as queers, they try to create safe spaces so they don't have to face oppression over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's like being close-minded, because I'm very open-minded. I'm really happy to meet people, but I'm always fine to go to, sometimes I go to village parties or village whatever. But I also try to avoid situations where I'm at risk.
Yeah.
And this is very much queer.
Yeah.
We're always like observing and anticipating.
There's this thing, like I'm from the village, and something I think everybody will sort of confirm that is that people who can say very ignorant or even hateful things about a group a group of society will have a hard time saying it to their faces.
Yeah, sure.
And not because they're lying at that moment, but because they're true. That's my perspective on it. Knowing a lot of people from the countryside and experiencing the way they, when I talk to them, that I don't think they're just pretending to be nice. They're actually considering a different viewpoint at the moment in a conversation. And one of the difficulties is that those conversations don't happen so much. So that's why, like when we talk about the bigger political moment, my feeling is that what we would need really is to talk to each other much more. Mm-hmm. But then that you want to feel safe in a conversation like that. So that's like the basic.
But for example, I've been touring in Germany a lot, and I don't tour in villages, but I tour sometimes in smaller cities. Mm-hmm. And I think this is also very interesting because I meet a lot of people, meet a lot of different people. And sometimes it's a bit moving because in these situations, they're like, who are you? And what do you do? And why do you say these things? Or mm-hmm. And sometimes with playing concerts in small cities in Germany, it's pretty much a ride.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Did you sometimes feel unsafe? Even on tour?
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure, and sometimes there are very unsafe situations, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
One of the things that makes me hesitate, I tend to get to the viewpoint that, like, to not much too obviously wave a certain flag, maybe helps keeping the conversation alive, because it's not a red flag to anyone then. So I feel like that's like a tightrope walk. I'm very happy that you call me an ally, and I really think that's what I aim to be. But at the same time, it's I want to still be able to talk to people who may not want to talk to me if they say, oh well, it's just another one of those. And I feel like it's how can we do that? How can we not be in the corner but still meet in the middle of the room?
Yeah, well, if they're ready to meet and not aggress me, that's fine.
Mm.
But you know, me, I already like only as a Finta person, I experienced so many harassment and oppressions, and then you develop you're scared and you don't want to lose your energy on this.
Yeah.
And it's always about concerned people, you know, who does the work. But there is one moment like you just can stay and call people they're woke, but it's just a way of not doing the work.
Yeah.
Because we're here, we're around.
Yeah.
And for me, like, yeah, it's really hard to. I don't want to teach. I don't want to educate people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not this person anymore.
So your focus is mostly on like strengthening the community
Yeah.
that you're in,
Yeah.
but not so much taking it out to the others.
Yeah.
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like this is my mission.
Mm-hmm.
But I know people who does that, and it's fantastic. I have lesbian friends. They're like teaching like about homophobia, but it's their job and they're very trained. And I don't fit in this role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too emotional about it. I need more knowledge. I need more skills, but I'm not a speaker about these questions. I can talk about universal stuff, and I don't want to convince that this woke word is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course it's problematic, but if I had to, of course I would do it. Like, if I don't know, it's like I don't really want to do it, but if I had to, I would.
I mean, it's interesting that you say it like that, because I think you do it.
I do.
Very obviously, actually, as a public persona, or as a public personality who is you are openly who you are, with everything involved. You're not hiding that.
Yeah, this is how I do it.
So you are kind of a spokesperson.
Yeah, I think what I can do is just present myself as who I am. And I think, like, I remember, for me, for example, when I had to come out, the more I will come out, the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, when I would say like she, and it was really hard, but then it just became natural as the more I would do so. Like the
You
more,
mean when you were talking about your partner?
Yeah.
And it's she.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I can do is just make it normal.
Yeah.
This is my girlfriend. I am a public persona. Yes, I'm a lesbian, and yes, I have a girlfriend, and yeah, I'm lesbian. Yeah. And make it just normal.
Yeah.
This is normal. I mean, this is. It has to be normal. This is normal.
And in a way, that seems like the obvious goal of the whole process, is that now we are talking about a lot of new words that sort of everybody has to learn, which scares sometimes also me, because I'm not always sure I'm up to date with the terminology.
But now you have ChatGPT. Even there are many bias.
Yes, I'm not sure I would trust that. But that's the thing. It's really, hopefully, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's how I look at the cause, is that we are there when it doesn't matter anymore. We're not there when everybody knows the exact drawer to put somebody in, or how to identify every single person specifically. But when we can say, this is Elodie, this is Christoph.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who they're with.
For me, it's like for example, socials are very interesting for this. Is like, hey, you're not interested, just swipe, just scroll. Why do you take the time to say that this person shouldn't say that or behave like this? Just scroll, just swipe.
Yeah, that's such a mystery to me too. But maybe that's us who never have enough time to do everything we like to do.
It's such a lot.
Maybe it's hard for us to understand.
Just to say, I hate gays or I hate trans people. Say, just have a fucking life. Have a life. I have a life, and I'm fine with mine. I'm fine with my life. Just have a life or find a new one. Trolls.
Yeah, that's a whole other identity that was created in a way by the situation. It's people who are my understanding of it is who are afraid of it and feel like the need to put themselves back into some strong position. So that's their way of doing it. It's by attacking it and trolling it.
I think what is really important is will they lose something? Because we're always afraid of changes, but will they lose anything from this personally? And this is the question you have to ask yourself. Will it make a difference for you? Does it make a difference? No, it's just...
I don't think it makes a difference. That should make a difference. But I think part of why the situation is so heated is that it does change something. It changes something in the common, for us as everybody together, a society as one. It makes it better because we become more equal. But it does take privilege away from some groups.
Of course.
And I think that is a true thing that's happening.
For example, in the music industry, yes, of course. Many more Finta people is less opportunities for males.
Yeah.
Because they owned it before for this. But regarding the whole society, I meant.
Yeah.
If you're trans, for example, or gay or queer or whatever, does it make a difference for you in your personal life? As a musician, yes, of course. I heard many things I should wear a skirt now. Oh, really?
Yeah. I never said that. But at the same, I'm, by no fault of mine, I tend to be an older white guy. And I'm aware that right now, the focus is not on giving me a stage. And I think that's okay. But still, for me personally, it's not an advantage.
No.
And I never aimed to take the stage away from a Finta person before. So I guess that's something that I expect myself to deal with in a grown-up way. But I don't think everyone expects themselves to deal with that in a grown-up way. Mm-hmm. And that's where the frustration comes from often.
So now you're in my position in the beginning.
Yeah.
That I wasn't very welcomed, but I would just do things and see where it leads.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, but that's almost I think it takes almost in a way, a spiritual perspective on life and one's place in the bigger scheme of things, to see, so this is happening to me and it's interesting, and that's why I appreciate it, even though it doesn't make it easier maybe, but as an experience it's interesting. Yeah. And I guess for me it's always okay when I manage to make that step. Yeah. But I think in life, not just in the way society progresses, also just in the way age progresses in a person, we are forced at some point to make those adjustments to our identities. So hopefully we manage to do that.
Yeah. But this is our journey as artists. We should just go on, whatever happens. we have to go on
Yeah.
and be true.
Yeah. Maybe there's one thing, just because it's such a like an undercurrent in some of the songs, and I just wonder if there's something you think about that. Like there's this whole question of like fate. Why am I who I am? Why was I born into the situation, or why do I have the capabilities or incapabilities that I have? Is there a spiritual dimension in that to you? Like, do you think about fate? Maybe even in the term of like divine intervention or divine planning or something like that?
Well, I was given a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
By whom?
I have no clue. But someone gave me a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always sang well.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning. So this was always... I just sang. And then I was like, okay, so someone... It's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say more about that. But I think I have this capability of writing songs, but I also worked to write songs, so I learned to play guitar and I worked very hard. Then I wrote songs and then I stood up on stage and then I had to face this and etc. etc. And I could just have stopped. But then sometimes I think about this songwriter artist on a mission thing. And I think, yeah, for me, it really makes sense that this is a bit of a mission for me to share. Mm-hmm. Because I have something to say. And I was given a voice.
But you don't put a lot of time into trying to answer who that is or what that means.
No.
You focus on being here and doing it.
Yes. Yeah. We cannot explain everything, Schatzi.
So
And
I think
I kind of like that.
that's going to be the finishing statement.
Yes, Schatz. I love
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see. Maybe we do this again.
Yeah.
I like it.
I liked it too.
Cool. So
So we do 1, 2, 3, 4?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Yeah, why not? Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good night.
Das war mein Gespräch mit der Elodie Romain, Billie Bird. Ich hoffe, ihr habt es verstanden, unser Englisch, und habt etwas mitnehmen können. Auch der nächste Podcast wird in Englisch sein, mit dem Viktor Holikov, einem Fotograf aus der Ukraine, einem langjährigen Freund von mir. Der Song, der dann kommt, heisst «Ein Zeichen». Das ist ein Song, wo keine Gäste prominent drauf mitgespielt haben und was sich fast per Zufall ergeben hat, dass der Viktor Vitia, wie wir ihm sagen, hat können für ein paar Tage in die Schweiz kommen für eine Ausstellung. Habe ich ihn sofort gefragt, ob er mitmachen bei so einem Podcast. Euch erwartet also ein Austausch zwischen zwei alten Freunden, die beide kulturschaffend sind. Und der eine von uns ist plötzlich in einem Kriegssoldat geworden. Ich hoffe, ihr hört das und ich freue mich, wenn ihr auch die anderen Podcasts hört, die es da schon gibt, und weiterhin bei dieser Geschichte hier mit dabei seid. Merci vielmals und bis gleich. Habt's gut. Ciao.